Alright, so now that you've submitted the application, let's actually talk about tracking the status of the application. So this is where you track the status of your application. It's the Family Sponsorship Application Tracker. It's a new tracker where you can create your account, link it to your application, and then track the status of your application. And it clearly says here that the sponsor, principal applicant, and representatives or designated individuals must create their own accounts. This means that the principal applicant, the sponsor, and the paid representative, if you're using a paid representative, all of you can create your separate accounts, link to the same application, and then track the status of that application. Alright? And in order to create the account as a sponsor or a principal applicant or a paid representative, you will first need to submit the application, then wait until you receive the acknowledgement of receipt. Once you receive the AOR, then your application takes about a week or so to get linked to the system, and then you can link your account in this tracker and then start tracking. Alright? So if you want detailed instructions about how you can create the account on this tracker and then how you can track it, then I have a dedicated video that should be showing up on the cards here, and it's linked in the description below. In this video, I'm not going to show you how to create the account and link your application. This is all about who can track and at what stage can you track. Alright, so let's talk about tracking. So first case is sponsor acting as the representative. So this was my case and I was the representative for my wife, so I submitted the application on her behalf. Now, I submitted the application on October 27, 2021. Then in about 3 months, I received the acknowledgement of receipt or AOR. So that AOR email was delivered to me because I provided my email address for correspondence. Alright. So in that AOR email, I had my UCI or the sponsor's UCI. Now, once you receive the AOR, it can take about a week or so for your application to get linked in the system. Once it gets linked, then you can use this new tracker to track the status of the application. So I received the AOR email on January 24, 2022. So about 3 months after I submitted my complete application. And then once I received the AOR email, I waited for about a week or so, and then I was able to create an account in this tracker. So to create the account, you're going to get to this screen. This is the Permanent Residence Family Sponsorship Tracker. I'm going to link it in the description below. Click on create the account. And here I'm going to select principal applicant or sponsor. And this is where I'm going to enter my UCI. So this is the sponsor's UCI. Remember, AOR will have the sponsor's UCI. Then I'm going to enter all these details exactly as they appear in the permanent residence sponsorship application that I submitted. Because these details have to match that application, that's going to help linking your details to the application that you've already submitted. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that the details that I enter here match exactly the sponsor details that I've entered in my wife's sponsorship application. Alright, so once I've entered the details, I am simply going to create the account as a sponsor. And once I've created the account, my application which was submitted is going to get linked to my account, the sponsor's account. Alright, and once the application is linked, then I am going to come to this page and click on sign in, and I'm simply going to sign in from my UCI and password, and I will have access to whatever details will be available at that point of my wife's PR application. Alright, so this is how I, the sponsor, was able to create the account and link my account to the existing application. Alright, after receiving acknowledgement of receipt. Now, about a week after receiving AOR, I received the biometrics request for my wife. Again, the email for the biometrics request came to me because I was the representative, so all communication goes to the representative. In that biometrics request was my wife's UCI. And because my wife had never applied for any other visa before, this was her first UCI. So then I gave this biometrics request to my wife, and then using her UCI and her password, she was able to create another account as a principal applicant in this tracker. So then what my wife did is to come back to this page, the PR tracker page, click on create the account, select principal applicant or sponsor, and this is where my wife would enter her UCI. Then she would enter her first name, last name, date of birth, place of birth, country of birth, exactly as it appears in the application that she did. So these details should match the details that you've provided as a principal applicant in your PR application forms. Alright, and then my wife was able to create the account and link her account to the existing application. And then my wife would log in to this PR tracker using her UCI and password, and then she would have access to her application where she would be able to track the status of that application. So in this case, when the sponsor is acting as the representative, both the principal applicant and sponsor can create separate accounts on this tracker, and then they can use their separate accounts to track the status of their PR application. Obviously, the principal applicant will have a much more detailed view of the application than the sponsor, But regardless, both of you can still track. Again, to learn about tracking and all the steps and how to create the account, you should check that video out, alright? Alright, so let's look at the second case. The principal applicant is taking care of the whole application themselves. No paid representative, no unpaid representative. So let's take my example. I'm the sponsor, I'm in Canada, my wife is in India, and she's choosing to do the complete application herself. No representative. So in this case, she'll submit the complete application, and once she receives the AOR email, which will have the sponsor's UCI, at that point, the sponsor or me can create the account and link to the application. Once my wife receives the biometrics or medical request, whichever comes first, that will have my wife's UCI. And then using that UCI, she can create her own account, link that account to the existing application. So in this case, when no representative is being hired, still both the sponsor and principal applicant can create their separate accounts and track the application. So let's look at the third and final case. You've hired a paid representative. So again, let's go with the same example. I'm the sponsor in Canada, my wife, the principal applicant, is in India, and we've hired a paid consultant or an immigration lawyer who's taking care of the complete application. So the representative will create the account in the online portal that we saw earlier. They will submit the application and they will provide their email address on which they will receive the communication. So when the application passes the completeness check, the acknowledgement of receipt email or the AOR email will probably go to the representative because the representative provided their email address. So in that AOR email will be the sponsor's UCI because, as we saw, the AOR email is meant for the sponsor. So once the AOR email is received by the representative, they should let you know that they've received the AOR, and after which the sponsor should be able to link their account to the application. Then the biometrics and medical request after the AOR is also probably going to be delivered to the representative. So once the representative receives the biometrics or the medical request, depending on whichever comes first, they should let you guys know that they've received the biometrics request, and in that request will be the UCI for the principal applicant. So then the principal applicant can link their account to the tracker, as we saw earlier, and start tracking their application. So when you're using this tracker, once you've received the AOR, biometrics or medical, you don't have to contact your representative to ask for their login ID for this tracker. You should be able to create your own account in this tracker and track the status of your application. Meaning the principal applicant, the sponsor and representative, all three of you can track the status of the application in this tracker using your own credentials, as long as you link the application correctly. And obviously this tracker has been experiencing some technical issues, so sometimes it may not work. So you may have to troubleshoot, try a different browser or clear your browser history or clear your memory cache and then try again. Eventually it ends up working for everyone. So keep in mind that all the details about any status updates that you receive are going to be delivered in this tracker. And this is important. Don't confuse this tracker with this permanent residence portal. This tracker is only meant for status updates about your application. This portal, however, is only meant to submit the application. And once your application is submitted, whether by the principal applicant or the sponsor or the paid representative, it's always going to show as submitted, as you see right here. And they are never going to open this portal for you. They are only going to open this portal if they want to return your application, meaning they want to reject it because you missed some important forms or you missed signatures, or basically your application is incomplete. As you can see right here, the first application I submitted was August 15, 2021, and they returned it. And you can now view the returned application, and you can submit the returned application again by making changes and corrections in this application. Okay, so if they return your application, you will have access to your submitted application. You can make corrections and submit it again from the returned application. But if your application was submitted correctly and it's passed the completeness check, it's always going to show as submitted. Okay, so hope this clears your confusion. So if you're trying to submit your sponsorship application online using the new permanent residence online portal and you seem to be stuck at the submit button, it just won't let you submit. The button is grayed out and you can't seem to figure out what the issue is. You think you've uploaded all the forms and documents, but the submit button just won't turn green. So I've encountered a lot of these cases from my subscribers as they shared those cases with me, and how they eventually ended up fixing those cases and ultimately making the gray submit button green. So I discuss all that in this video that should be showing up on the cards here, and it's linked in the description below. So definitely check that out if you seem to be struggling with some technical issues with the online portal, and maybe it resolves your case. This is Hit Submit in Canada. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Good night.